back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Working Class Gamer Podcast. I'm your host, Director Warren, also known as Stalin Warren, and I'm here today with episode 18. It's a wonderful time. It's a beautiful day outside. I'm recording this on Sunday. This is coming to you on Monday. I'm feeling so grateful, so thankful, just filled with gratitude because you guys know what's going on. It's Crimson Desert launch week. So I just wanted to start by sending you all some blessings wherever you are. Thank you for watching. If you would please be so kind to like and subscribe if you have not already subscribed. And if you are subscribed or if you're not, make sure to throw on those post notifications. I don't post enough that I feel like it would be annoying, but I do think it's imperative that you guys lock in with me so that you know when I'm streaming and you know when these podcast episodes are dropping. I do want to get into more like commentaries on specific games, but that's more content literally. And so I want to continue to build a subscriber base before I get into those types of videos. So if you guys want them, I'll bring them to you, but I have a subscriber number in my head that I want to reach first before I start doing those things. So the main things we do on this channel right now are this podcast and any and all streams for any and all games, basically. So yeah, I appreciate you guys' support thus far. Thank you guys just so much, you know what I mean, for following, engaging with the content and all that sort of stuff. If I talk to you on different channels outside of here, I just appreciate your listenership, your viewership, and your support. So thank you so much. I don't think that today's episode is going to be very long. Number one, I barely got around to even recording this episode. Like I told you guys, if you watched the Crimson Desert launch stream that I had on Thursday, I said, hey, I'm going to be back with an episode on Sunday. Okay. And I said that while I was playing the intro tutorial of the game. I myself, for as hype as I've been for the last 6.5 years almost since I first found out about Crimson Desert, I myself had no idea just how drawn to the game I was going to become after that stream. Okay, so Saturday was the day that the game finally clicked for me in my mental and in my spiritual, honestly. And so that is why instead of recording Saturday night to put this out Sunday, I'm recording Sunday afternoon before going into work at night for a night shift so I can put this out Monday afternoon. But it's fine. Like I've had the topics that I've wanted to talk about for about a week now. And it coming a day late is not really going to be a bad thing or whatever. And honestly, taking your time is going to be a through line of just about everything that we talk about in this episode. So without further ado, before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, which if you see in the title and the thumbnail, then you probably have an idea of what the meat and potatoes is going to be today. I do want to start with a shout out. Okay. I have put 30 hours into Avowed. Okay. As you guys know, I bought that game just in lieu of waiting for Crimson Desert to come out. I wanted something to play. It came out on February 17th for $49.99. I wanted to play that game a year ago when it dropped on Xbox, so I've been waiting for that release, kind of like how I'm waiting for the Starfield release, April 7th. So yeah, I bought it, and I love the game. I really, really, really enjoy it. I don't know when I'm going to come back to it now that Crimson Desert is here, and there's other things coming in April and in May and so on and so forth. But I am like pretty deep into it. I probably have 10 more hours to go really before the credits roll. It'll probably be one of those games that like once I get tired of just seeing Crimson Desert UI all the time, get tired of seeing Pragmata and get tired of James Bond, that I'll double back and come back to Avowed. So June, when I'm going to get back to finishing this game. But it is really great. I wrote down that it's pure fun. It's just a fun game from start to where I am now, and I'm assuming to the finish. I love the skill trees, amazing skill trees. Excuse me. I always do that when I got the camera on. Meaningful skill trees, like skill trees that really help you decide what kind of player you want to be, that have a meaningful impact on your gameplay and on your gameplay loop. The last time I kind of felt like I got this response from investing skill points into a tree was Cyberpunk 2077, to be honest. Yes, I should play more games. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, and I know that skill tree is pretty impactful and pretty deep. just amongst other things, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I don't really know how that's set up, but amongst other things, like the last time I felt this kind of impact with my choice of skills that I selected was Cyberpunk. Like I am truly, I really am a dual wielding, like I'm a spell binding wizard. You know what I mean? And I keep a heavy axe on me for when things get a little tough. And so I really just enjoy the options that the game has. Like there's two entire skill trees that I have no points in whatsoever that would completely change my playstyle if I invested in them. So I'm waiting to get to the point of New Game Plus to invest more in those trees. But right now I'm just like a super powerful storm wizard that keeps a heavy axe on him and a gun. I keep a gun on me too. You know, I got to keep that strap on me. I'm actually invested into the story, and this is really because I care about like my companion characters, and through them I learned so much about the politics of the world. For those of you who don't know, Avowed is a standalone spin-off of the Pillars of Eternity series. So it takes place in a universe that already has established lore and political situations, nations, and this and that. And Avowed kind of places you in the middle of that space, in the middle of that timeline. It explains itself really well through like in-game lore menus, kind of akin to what Final Fantasy 16 did. I think that's one of the greatest innovations of this generation, quiet as kept, is having a button to press to get definitions for certain lore drops that happen while you're talking to somebody. Crimson Desert has that as well, and I really enjoy that. So I am invested into the story like this deep. Like I totally know what's going on. I know my place in the world, and I know, and the choices that I make actually do have an impact. They have some choices that aren't pretty weighty, but they're like decisions that you really have to make. That do have implications for just your relationships with other characters around you, not necessarily the story yet. There have been a couple of those choices, but most of the ones I have been presented with would kind of directly impact my relationships to certain people. And through gameplay, I have committed actions that have sent me down a completely different path than what you might go on when you're playing Avowed. So it's a really good storybook fairy tale adventure. It's presented that way. It's what I wanted when Dragon Age the Veilguard came out. I wasn't mad at the art direction for Dragon Age the Veilguard. I just feel like the stakes and just the fun factor wasn't really there for me. Avowed, the stakes are there, and there's a lot of fun factor there. And it's more fun for me than anything. It's not a deeply emotional experience, but there is a story to get invested in, and you're gonna fall in love more with the characters than just the story. So yeah, I'm excited for New Game Plus. All the visual modes I wrote down just really quickly. All the graphical modes on PS5 Pro have their strengths. Beautiful graphics and good performance. I play in quality mode or balanced mode. I don't really do much in performance mode because I'm not a stickler for high frame rates. And we're just gonna get into I think a through line for this whole episode is going to be not only like your personal standard for what you play, but also just like how you go about playing the things that you play. So yeah, that's my quick shout out to Avowed. Shout out to Obsidian Entertainment. I will eventually get to the Outer Worlds 2. I probably won't play that game until we have a PlayStation handheld, just to keep it a beam with you. So, okay. The next game that I wanted to shout out that I think it's important that we speak on, because there's so many things happening around this particular title. And that game is Resident Evil Requiem. Now, normally when I talk about games on this podcast, this is a gameplay podcast, as I like to reiterate to you guys. Normally when I talk about games, I like to have some type of gameplay to go along with what I'm saying. I don't have any gameplay of Resident Evil Requiem because I have not played Resident Evil Requiem. I don't even know if I'm going to ever play Resident Evil Requiem. And it was in my most wanted list a couple episodes ago. So I may get around to it. Before I play Requiem, I'm going to have to play Resident Evil 4. I need to get acquainted with Leon Kennedy, and that gameplay style in 4 is probably the best. That's the only way to get me to play Resident Evil, is to give me a gun and some kicks and some different moves, because I don't want to do the survival horror thing. Like, I'm not like Grace's storyline, like her story is appealing to me, but the gameplay loop is not appealing to me at all. But that's just because I'm a scaredy cat, okay? But I am gonna get around to playing it. But I wanted to bring this game up because as of right now, Resident Evil Requiem is the highest rated game on Metacritic. This is also going to be the episode that I talk the most about Metacritic thus far through having this podcast. Anyway, the highest rated user score on Metacritic right now. It sold 5 million copies in its first 5 days of release, which was the fastest Resident Evil to get to 5 million. Early analytics suggesting almost half of that was on PC, with another 1.6 million on PS5 and almost 500,000 on Series X. I don't know how well it did, but you could do the math. If that's 2.5 plus 1.6, bringing it to 4.1, and another 500,000, that would bring it, so about another 300,000 probably on Switch too. Which, first of all, just congratulations to Capcom on this release. It's just fantastic from what I hear. From what I see, fantastic game. We really, I don't think we give Capcom, and I brought this up a couple times on this podcast, we don't give Capcom enough credit for putting out a consistent level of quality. Their lowest rated game in the last 5 or 6 years was Dragon's Dogma 2. And not because the game was bad, but just because the design choices are going to leave some people in the dark. But the average rating on that game was a 7 out of 10, I would say. The lowest score I saw was probably a 6 or a 7. Most of what I saw was 7 and 8. And there are some people who believe that game is a masterpiece. But as far as the standard of quality, the standard of performance, the standard of fun, that being their lowest bar, which is a high bar next to a lot of other titles, we really don't give Capcom enough credit for consistently putting out high quality experiences. They don't lean into cinematics, they don't lean into story, they don't lean into gameplay. They are really the whole package. They are really committed, it seems, to giving you the best bang for your buck when it comes to interactive entertainment. On top of that, they got Pragmata coming up in a couple of weeks. They moved the date up. It was coming out April 24th. Now it's coming out April 17th or something like that. They just are great. And then they got Onimusha Way of the Sword later on this year. And that's one I personally can't wait for. But we really got to give them their props. So I'm going to give them their props. The Working Class Gamer Podcast is here to give Capcom their props on just putting out high quality content. And I cannot wait to eventually get over myself and play Resident Evil Requiem. Shout out to the homie James. I watched his stream. He streamed the game on Nintendo Switch too. And we're going to get into this with the next topic, but never has it been more apparent that art direction is what carries a video game. Now, Resident Evil Requiem is built on the RE engine, which I have said on this podcast is the best engine out. One of the best, if not the best engine out right now. Clears Unreal Engine 5. Okay? But the thing about Capcom games is if you stand them all next to each other, the latest RE engine games, if we take Dragon's Dogma, if we take Devil May Cry 5, if we take Resident Evil 4 Remake and Resident Evil Requiem, they all look and present themselves completely differently. And it's because those games lean into, not just understand, but lean into building their visual identity, not through fidelity, but through art direction. And that's another thing we got to commend them for. And now we are at this crossroads in the evolution of gaming, where gamers are starting to realize that is what is important. And maybe we kind of overdid it on demanding photorealism and demanding ultra fidelity from everything, because now the shortcuts that companies are going to have to make to deliver that quality clip after clip after clip for the foreseeable future to keep up with the demand from the gamer. Now the shortcuts that they're having to take are becoming a little too blatant for some of us to handle. And you're going to understand what I mean when I get to the next topic. But Resident Evil Requiem. Now, the segue to that next topic is this was the debut game for Sony's new updated PSSR, or what we in the community are calling PSSR 2. That is PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. Okay, that is their upscaling solution that they created with the PS5 Pro. Okay, so what it does is, and we're going to get into what AI upscaling is, but PSSR for the longest has been criticized for the blurriness In some games, you had not Final Fantasy 7 because that was kind of fixed through the PS5 Pro, but certain games like Avatar, Star Wars Outlaws, and other games that aren't really built in-house at Sony kind of struggle with, or PSSR struggles with those games. So they've long since told us that this was going to be, the PS5 Pro is going to be regularly updated and made better as time goes on. And so we got the first iteration of that with PSSR 2. And so I tested it myself. I saw it with Resident Evil Requiem. Requiem debuted with it, and it's gorgeous. I tested it on Avatar, which is a game that actually has a PSSR toggle. Other games are going to have to update to it. I didn't get to play Warhammer with it. I didn't have a chance, but the reason I started Avatar and just stayed with Avatar was because it was so gorgeous that I just started playing the game again. And it looks really good. Really cleans up the image. It's not as blurry. Like games like that where the foliage is very heavy and you have a lot of light moving through trees and volumetric fog and stuff like that, where it can get blurry because even though the GPU is larger than the PS5 and the Series X, it's still not quite PC large. So we're not able to get like the finest details in those kind of effects, and PSSR can get a little blurry trying to re-render those or upscale those, basically. PSSR 2 does a great job of cleaning up the image. It doesn't really bring the sharpness or resolution up. The sharpness, it brings it up a little bit, but it's not like going from 1080p to 4K. It's just like it's not like a Vaseline type filter, but it almost looks filtered. Other games look better. Like Crimson Desert is a great, just uses PSSR wonderfully. But Avatar, because I guess honestly wasn't designed with this implementation of PSSR in mind, it's just kind of cleaned up. It's not like elevated, if that makes sense. It's kind of just brought to a decent baseline. So yeah, PSSR 2 is out now. And so the reason I think it's relevant is because what we're finding out in real time is what the line is for gamers when it comes to AI upscaling. And so that brings me to my next topic. In the last few days, NVIDIA has revealed the latest iteration of DLSS, NVIDIA DLSS 5. Okay, and real quick, actually, let me just look up the definition of DLSS. What that stands for. Deep Learning Super Sampling. It's an AI-powered graphics technology that boosts gaming performance to frames per second while maintaining or improving visual quality. So DLSS has been out for a while now. It's been out since, I want to say, the 30 series, but to be safe, at least the 40 series, okay, of RTX graphics cards. And we're on the 50 series now, right? And so I have a couple of things that I want to read to you in regards to the reveal of DLSS 5. I am going to share some pictures as I talk about what this is and what this looks like, because this has created an uproar in the community as far as art direction versus improving graphics and like where they just don't mix. So let me go to my article. First of all, I meant to turn the TV off for the sake of the white balance. Let me go. Okay, so I went to the DLSS 5 FAQ. This is on NVIDIA's site. What is DLSS 5? It is a real-time 3D guided neural rendering model unveiled at NVIDIA GTC that infuses pixels with photoreal lighting and materials. It marks NVIDIA's most significant breakthrough in computer graphics since the debut of real-time ray tracing in 2018. What are the key benefits? DLSS 5 delivers several significant benefits. Cinematic lighting reconstructs complex effects like rim lighting, subsurface scattering for realistic skin, and contact shadows with high fidelity. The material depth, it enhances PBR properties like roughness and adds micro-realism to complex objects such as eyes and hair. Temporal consistency provides stable image quality from frame to frame that adheres to the underlying game content. Real-time performance delivers photorealistic enhancement. Now, this is where the problem arises. Delivers photorealistic enhancement at up to 4K resolution while maintaining smooth, interactive gameplay. Controllability allows game developers to tune intensity, color, and masking to determine where and how enhancements are applied to maintain the game's unique aesthetic. How does it work to achieve the photorealism? It is a neural rendering model that takes the game's color and motion vectors as input for each frame, then infuses the scene with photoreal lighting and materials that are anchored to the source 3D content and temporarily consistent from frame to frame. Now that particular paragraph is where they got intentionally vague. But don't worry, just walk with me for a second. When will it be available? Fall 2026. What games will support it at launch? It will debut in games like Eon 2, I don't know what that is, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Black State, Cinder City, Delta Force, Hogwarts Legacy, Justice, Naraka Blade Point, Neverness to Everness, Phantom Blade Zero, Resident Evil Requiem, Sea of Remnants, Starfield, The Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, Where Winds Meet, and more. Does it work with DLSS, super resolution, RAID reconstruction, frame generation, blah, blah, blah? Yes. Which GPUs? Minimum GPU specifications are pending model optimizations and will be provided closer to release. I'm thinking it's going to be 5080 and above. And that's it with the FAQ. So that's what they're telling us DLSS 5 is. Now I'm going to show you some images, some side-by-side images of games as they look right now and what they'll look like with DLSS 5 on, right? And this is straight from the NVIDIA video. I might just superimpose the recorded video over while I'm talking, but let me start with these images. Let's start with Resident Evil Requiem. Okay, this is a picture of Grace. Well, actually, let's start with the one of Leon first. Okay, look at Leon. Look at the side by side. Look at what is done. Look at what is done to his face, the contours of his face, the lighting on his face. And then we're going to show, let's look at Grace. And this is the picture that keeps circulating because it's so horrible. They have yassified Grace. Okay. Grace's character model, she is intentionally drawn the way that she is. She is frightened when the mission she's sent on is filled with trauma. Her mother died at the place that she's sent to go. This is the very first level of the game. Her mother was killed in a previous game at this location where more people keep dying. So the FBI sends her specifically to go to this place. She's traumatized the entire time she's doing it. You can see it on her face. And so the DLSS 5, just completely cleans that up. Not only does it clean up the look of her face, it cleans up the emotion that was put there by an artist. And that's where the issue is going to lie. Okay. And I'm going to play this clip like while I'm talking through some of this stuff, because then we had this comes from videocards.com. They were the only people to host this, the only website to host this actual information. But basically, NVIDIA's Jacob Freeman responded to a query about DLSS 5 technology posed by YouTuber Daniel Owen. In terms of how the technology actually functions, it answers one of the most important questions, and it's not the answer gamers expected. NVIDIA has now confirmed that DLSS 5, that's what we're going to call it, takes a 2D rendered frame. So they don't tell you that they don't tell you that they're looking at the 2D rendered frame in the FAQ that I just read. They tell you that they take a frame to generate the information and then paste it back on there, making assumptions about the nature of the 3D content in the game, but they're doing it from a 2D point of view. I don't know if that makes any sense. Okay, but basically what this YouTuber got them to admit, I'm gonna get back to reading more, is he got NVIDIA to admit that it's like Instagram. I'm gonna put it to you like this. What they are doing is what Instagram does. You put a picture, you're about to post a story on your Instagram or Facebook, whatever social media you use, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they all have what I'm about to talk about. You select a picture to upload, and then it gives you filter options, okay? It's not the same as when you input that same raw file, because now our iPhones can take raw files. It's not the same as when you input that raw file into Adobe and start making changes, because those changes that you make in Adobe are on a metadata level. You are changing the metadata of a digital file. When you put that same picture, raw or finished JPEG from Adobe, whatever, when you put that same picture in Instagram and get ready to post it, and maybe you want to throw a filter on it, I don't know why, but you're about to throw a filter on it like it's 2013, that filter, all it's doing is looking at the 2D information, just the basic information of what is in the frame. It has no access to the metadata. So when you put the filter on there and it's a sepia filter, it's not doing sepia from a metadata level up. It's doing it purely on a 2D basis. So all of your highlight information, that's unchanged. Your shadow information is unchanged. Your contrast information, exposure information, white levels, black levels, all of that data that you can impact on a metadata level, the filters are not impacting that. That's not really a problem though, right? The filters are made for people who snap very quickly on their phone, don't throw it into Adobe to edit, and now you can edit within the Photos app on your iPhone or on your Android, whatever. People who don't do that, your grandma, your grandpa, your aunts, your uncles, that's what the filters are for, a quick and easy solution to give you a certain type of look. I put X Pro 2 on mad Instagram photos in high school in 2013 and 2014. So that's what it's for, right? DLSS 5 is essentially an AI generated version of that. We have gone beyond enhancing the performance. And now we are asking the AI to do guesswork, which it was already doing guesswork, but do guesswork with the presentation of it all. But the line was always blurry from the introduction of DLSS. Like as I'm talking, like there's a lot of nuance with this, okay? So just bear with me. So they confirmed that it takes from a 2D rendered frame plus motion vectors as input. So I'm not qualified enough to speak on that, but it makes sense in my mind. Anyway, the answer that they were given is direct, and it does not fully match the earlier impressions created by NVIDIA's own marketing language around geometry, materials, and scene understanding. DLSS 5 does not appear to read 3D geometry, depth, or artist-authored material data directly from the game engine. When asked whether the model is effectively taking a single 2D frame from motion vectors to create the output, the answer was yes. It does take a 2D frame plus motion vectors as input. NVIDIA also said the model understands scene semantics such as hair, fabric, skin, and lighting conditions, all by analyzing a single frame. How could you understand? Anyway, NVIDIA has earlier described DLSS 5 in a way that suggested a deeper understanding of the scene. The follow-up answers paint a narrower picture. When asked whether the model reads physically based rendering properties from the engine, NVIDIA said it only takes the rendered frame and motion vectors as inputs. Materials are inferred from the rendered frame. In other words, the model is not reading metallic, roughness, normal maps, or other underlying material properties directly. That may explain why some preview images raise concerns. In one example, a character appears to gain hair detail in an area where it was not visible before. I think this is the Hogwarts Legacy picture. I'll show it here. In another, facial details appear altered enough, like the nose, to raise questions about whether the model is changing the look of the character rather than only improving lighting. NVIDIA's response was that the underlying geometry is unchanged, while also adding that this is a very early preview of the tech. That answer addresses the engine-side model data, but it does not change the fact that the final displayed image can look different. NVIDIA's answers also suggest that developer control is still fairly limited. The company says developers can adjust intensity, color grading, blending, contrast, saturation, gamma, and apply mask to exclude specific objects or areas from enhancement. However, the answers do not point to any direct way for developers to correct a specific generated facial detail, makeup light effect, or other scene interpretation beyond reducing, masking, or disabling the effect. If only NVIDIA allowed developers to supply, let's say, higher quality renders for faces, that would be DLSS 5 added, that would probably put some complaints to rest. But it seems that faces are still fully AI generated. And it includes the full exchange between the YouTuber and the NVIDIA representative. And I'm not going to read all that because we just got it summarized. So this is the thing. And I am like, while I was reading, I was like, I got to put the video clip in there. And I might play it multiple times for you to see. Because for me, first of all, I saw this. I woke up in the morning, you know what I mean, brushed my teeth, read the newspaper. And when I say read the newspaper, I mean Facebook and Twitter. And I get on Twitter and NVIDIA has posted this video just like it's normal. And the response to all of it is this doesn't look weird. Like at one point we were using DLSS to go from 56 frames per second to 100 frames per second, right? And the integrity of the game was intact through doing that. The AI upscaling was taking us to that frame rate, but the integrity of the game, and I've said this before, I'm with AI assistance up to a point, but once you start reworking the image or trying to generate it on your own, I'm not interested. That's when I'm not interested in AI. I'm not interested in AI movies. I'm not interested in AI games. I'm not interested in AI voice work. I'm not interested in AI anything. That's why I don't have ARC graders. And by the way, really quick, I saw the headline last week. The developers of ARC graders say, hey, we're getting rid of the voices. Maybe that wasn't the greatest idea. And we're re-recording some of those lines with real people. So if you voice your disdain loud enough, I told y'all on this podcast I was never buying that game, and I was interested in buying that game, but I'm not buying it until they figure out the voice situation. Your dollar speaks. I'm not even saying they heard this podcast because I know the view count on that episode, but other people were saying it. Okay. Now, I do want to read one last article very quickly. Because it turns out that game artists don't love DLSS 5. And this comes from IGN, Jacqueline Thomas. This was on Friday. NVIDIA revealed DLSS 5 earlier this week, working neural rendering into its AI technology suite for graphics cards. The company claimed that game developers were on board despite some of the drastic changes it seemed to make to the game's aesthetic, especially Resident Evil 5. Why are they calling that 5? It's Resident Evil 9. Both Assassin's Creed Shadows and Resident Evil Requiem were used to show off the new technology, but it seems like the art teams for Ubisoft and Capcom, respectively, didn't know about it until the trailer debuted, with the developer from the former telling Insider Gaming, "We found out at the same time as the public." Capcom's art team was particularly shocked and worried by Resident Evil's trailer, given the company's anti-AI stance with previous Resident Evil games. The Capcom art team definitely wasn't alone in its reaction to the technology. Animator Mike York, who has worked on a wide variety of games, including Death Stranding 2, streamed a reaction to Digital Foundry's preview of DLSS 5. In it, he paused at several moments to point out some of the more radical changes that the neural rendering tech made to the games. For instance, York points out that with DLSS 5 enabled, Grace Ashcroft's eyes point in two different directions, along with extra details like wrinkles in her lips and an ear with a completely different shape. But more than that, York contends that rather than just fixing the lighting and some materials like NVIDIA has claimed, the geometry hasn't changed in the computer. So you're playing the game and the geometry isn't being changed. He's right, but he has to be careful in how he phrases it. The geometry isn't being changed, but what's happening is that it's being painted over, sort of. Every single frame is being painted over. It's actually not showing the real geometry anymore, which is my personal issue with the whole thing. And you can see that clear as day when you watch NVIDIA's promotional video, which I'm sure has been disliked to hell on YouTube. It appears that the new algorithm is using Gen AI to generate entirely new images that are anchored to the original frames. That would account for the strange aesthetic differences and changes in details in background scenery. Now, NVIDIA does claim that developers maintain control over the intensity of the model, and we've already went over that. It seems like developers and artists will be able to stake their claim, as it were, in certain assets to keep them from being altered by the algorithm. However, until we see these controls in action, it's not clear how much control is actually there. It's a long way off from release, but many people are already looking at it as an unwelcome change to the art of video games. The backlash was so strong, in fact, that it prompted CEO Jensen Huang to come on stage at GTC 2026 and claim that people were, quote, wrong about their distaste for the technology. Either way, it will likely change a lot before it makes its way to graphics cards this fall, so maybe Team Green will rein in some of its excesses. We won't know for a few months, though. This personally bothers me because now you can, on PC games, you can decide if you want to use DLSS 4.0, 4.5, if you want to use ray reconstruction, frame generation. All of these are toggles, right? And it's options within options, okay? So it's not like everybody with an NVIDIA RTX 5060, 5070, 5080, 5090, if DLSS 5 is even available on cards below the 5090. It's not like you're going to automatically have to deal with this. You will have to toggle to get to this level of AI upscaling and re-rendering, essentially. But number one, it was already sketchy how it was announced. Like, these sorts of things, for something this grand, for change this grand, you would want to have a press release. Like IGN would have had a press release, PC Gamer would have had a press release already. You would have done a little something. You would have did more than release a 1.5 minute long trailer for the latest iteration of DLSS. DLSS 4 was all over the marketing of Cyberpunk 2077. I was there, I remember, in 2020. That was the big path tracing. They used that game, they marketed with that game to no end. Resident Evil Requiem is the clear graphical, and Crimson Desert also, but they are the clear graphical powerhouses of the last 3 or 4 years with great art direction. Those are your clear candidates to market around. They know that this shit is so bad that they went around. Not only are they telling you, the consumer, who's going to spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a graphics card to build their PC, not only are they telling you that you are wrong for how you feel about what you are seeing with your own eyes, they went around the backs of your favorite developers who make the games that you love to display this technology, talking about, oh yeah, those guys are going to have control over how it works. They're not going to have that much control. Like, for those of you who don't know what masking is, look at this image, this frame of me sitting in front of this mic, talking to the camera, talking to you guys. Look at this image. A mask is, for those of you who don't know, drawing over, let's say, my body, right? And if I wanted to darken every other part of this frame, I would draw a mask over me. Like, I would just paint something really quick over just my body. And now we're at the place now with our hardware, without AI, we are at the place now. Well, some of the functions are AI accelerated, I'm not going to lie. But even before the AI acceleration was introduced on Final Cut, on DaVinci, on Adobe Premiere, the hardware was at a place where your drawing could be refined by the hardware. The hardware would figure out, okay, this is Stalin's body, so whatever you're going to do outside of him, that's not going to be reflected on that part, on those pixels of the frame, right? That's what masking is. So you're telling me that the only tool you're going to give game developers is the ability to draw over Grace Ashcroft's face and say, we just don't want DLSS 5 to come up here so we can maintain the integrity of her face, the fear in her face, the trauma in her face, so you guys don't yesify her, but you can yesify the rest of the frame? Also, for those of you who don't know what yassify means, yassify is the verb that was created in lieu of this era that we live in, where your grandma or your auntie or your homegirl that you went to high school with is now throwing their picture in a freaking AI generator to make themselves look like a Bratz doll or a Barbie doll or whatever, some airbrushed digital abomination, basically. Okay, we call that yassifying, face tuning. Right? That's a Facetune 3.0 on my girl Grace from Resident Evil. That's horrible. Facetuning on the Starfield characters is horrible. Facetuning the Hogwarts Legacy guy. The reason it's horrible too is because it's not like you're taking, because in DaVinci Resolve, right, you have programs where, let's say I'm doing an interview, there are different plugins in the editor where I can kind of do post-production makeup on a face, and I can clean up the face as best I can. It's the same. It's what you do when you edit pictures digitally. You are doing it. You are deciding the intensity and where it's happening and all that kind of stuff. Now, there may be some AI acceleration. There's definitely some hardware acceleration, and there may be, at this point in 2026, some additional AI acceleration as far as just reading all the pixels and all that kind of stuff now on top of those. But those plugins have existed for well over a decade now. Like, since the era of 4K began, 4K in our homes that we could edit, you've been able to do masking, you've been able to do relighting, you've been able to, people who make videos and make short films and stuff, like, they know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? You've been able to do that. Now, what these people have done is they have programmed an algorithm to do all of those things for us, to make all of those decisions. So imagine being a developer, working in the art department, working in concept art or whatever. You have drawn and programmed these images to a specific point. This is like, you don't need more power to make Grace look more traumatized. You know what I mean? You don't need more GPU power. You got to figure out how to balance the technology power in her face versus the technology power in the lighting and powering the textures on her clothes. It's a lot going on in that game. But they are presenting her as they intend to present her. And so we're asking, NVIDIA is asking us to allow their algorithm to give us an extra layer of interpretation. there's no way that the algorithm can match what they decided in the last 5 or 6 years of development. That's not possible. And if there is no pipeline from developer to algorithm before we get the final product, then you're not even like the end point. If I have DLSS 5 on, is not the artist's intended point. It is not the artist's intended rendering of the frame. And I'm looking at 120 of these a second. So I'm looking, oh my goodness, I am looking at a misinterpretation. Instead of seeing the artist's intent for 120 frames a second, I am seeing an algorithm's intent. I am seeing an algorithm's interpretation of artist's intent 120 times per second. Now, as I'm saying that, it's coming to the forefront of my mind. I'm being reminded of a Time magazine published study of these AI generated images and these AI assisted processes like ChatGPT, the language models and stuff like that. The effects of these programs on our brains, on our critical thinking, on our perception of self. They published the study. It's having a horrible effect on people's minds. Taking pictures of yourself and putting it into an AI generator. Seeing yourself re-rendered is having an adverse effect on you. But this is not a podcast. This ain't what this podcast is about. This is about gaming. When I put that Crimson Desert disc in Thursday night at 7:30 p.m., I was overjoyed. I've known about this game since late 2019, which means they've been working on it far longer than that. I'm about to experience on hard disk, by the way, all of the game was there. I'm about to experience a team's intention, a team's specific vision for a high fantasy open world. And part of that intention is the graphical presentation. That is arguably probably the second most important part of the whole package. The most important being the actual gameplay itself. But the way the game looks to me, appears to me, the way it comes off of my screen, the way I'm going to receive it, is arguably, after I've decided that the gameplay works for me, it's arguably the most important aspect of how I'm going to interpret the game myself. How I'm going to receive this game and remember this game. The problem is, the people in these boardrooms are not the same as the people in cubicles that are programming the waterfalls and programming the day-night cycles and programming the combat physics and programming the cape physics and programming the texture and programming the freaking Porsche in Resident Evil and Leon's watch and his hairstyle and how it's going to look with him being 50 versus however old he was in Resident Evil 4. They're not the same type of people. The people in the boardrooms of these tech companies, dude, maybe I do need to get a Patreon so that, because I'll tell you why this doesn't surprise me coming from NVIDIA. They've aligned themselves with a particular country that is at the forefront of pushing a very specific type of AI technology in the first place. A type of AI technology that has no place for the artist, no place for humanity, no place for privacy. NVIDIA just committed themselves to hosting their top employees in this country that I'm not going to mention because this is a free broadcast. So when we get up in membership, I promise you, I'm going to take the sensor off myself and start connecting these dots for you. I couldn't do it when Saudi Arabia bought Electronic Arts. Shout out to the developers of Battlefield 6 who just got laid off last week after releasing the top-selling game of the year. The best-selling game of the entirety of 2026. And like 1,000 people, like hundreds of people got laid off. have lost their jobs. So I can't connect the dots for you, but I know there are those of you behind this camera that are smart enough to understand what dots I'm connecting. There's only one country you don't want to be. There's only one country that you don't want to really be seen associating with. There's only one country on the planet, and it's not China, and it's not Iran. So it doesn't surprise me that the company that has aligned themselves with these types of people is the type of company to unveil the latest in their bullshit AI technology without even talking to the developers and publishers that make the gaming globe go round, that keep this industry alive, that drop things that 5 million people say, here's my $80 freaking dollars. That it took half of those people a full day's work to earn. Maybe not me and maybe not you, but for every one of me and you, it's mad people it took 6 to 8 hours to earn. Some it took the whole day. Some they had to work a day and a couple hours the next day because of freaking taxes. It was never technology. It was how we used the technology, but it wasn't the sophistication of the technology itself that sold millions of copies of Ocarina of Time, that sold millions of copies of Super Mario 64, that sold millions of copies of Gran Turismo 1 on PlayStation. It wasn't just the technology. When they introduced Gran Turismo to the world, they introduced a team of passionate developers who not only love video games, but they love racing. The algorithm doesn't even know what about Resident Evil to love. It doesn't know what makes Resident Evil so great. That when you turn the sound off and you just are looking at images on a screen and you walk into a room of someone playing video games, you know immediately that they're playing Resident Evil. In the same way, you know immediately whether or not someone's playing Call of Duty or Battlefield. In the same way, immediately, you know whether or not someone is playing Grand Theft Auto 4 or Saints Row 2. It's not the technology. It has always been the art direction. And at the same time, that one of the most graphically sophisticated, detailed game worlds I have ever seen in my life that was made by human beings, that's causing me to say, before I saw PSSR 2, you know what? This might be the year I need to build a PC, bro. I didn't do it for Wukong. Maybe I got to do it for Crimson Desert. And I played PlayStation. I realized why I got a PlayStation 5 Pro. But that's neither here nor there. I had those thoughts leading up to Thursday night's release of Crimson Desert because I just I gotta experience this to the max. I want to have every piece of human-made technology in this room possible within my budget to experience the full breadth and depth of this game, of this interactive experience. And then they put this out the morning of. And it's this is why we have a RAM shortage. And shout out to Apple for dropping a $600 MacBook for your high school student, for your college student. Because this is why the RAM is short. So that you can put a $4,000 AI filter into your computer. These 5090 PCs, we're talking $7,000 to $10,000 to get a fully maxed out rig. And you're in that $6,000-$7,000 mark, you're gonna have to cut some corners on the branding of your RAM and the branding of your motherboard, your case, your cooling fans. You're gonna have to cut some corners. I don't mind paying $10,000 for a machine that can render games in their max quality. I don't want to pay $10,000. I don't even mind. I don't mind the AI upscaling. That's a definition that I pulled because I wanted to read it to you guys, not only for myself, because I like to keep these conversations fair. Dude, I be having so much trouble navigating the tabs of Google. See, I got how to solve this and how to solve that. I had to yeah, okay. What is an AI upscaler? It's a technology that uses machine learning to increase the resolution of images and videos, transforming low quality, small, or compressed content into sharp, high definition visuals. I'm going to use Crimson Desert as an example, okay? What PSSR specifically does for your performance mode. You're playing on a 4K TV. What the PlayStation 5 Pro does, what the game has instructed the system to do, is to take a base resolution of 1080p, ray tracing on ultra, probably the graphical effects are probably on medium, right? But that base resolution, take this base resolution and upscale it to 4K, because we're going to run the game at 1080p so that we can achieve 60 FPS plus to make it a performance mode. But for the sake of how we know most gamers are going to be playing this game, and to bring it back to the resolution of the screens they're playing this on, upscale this to 4K. And the way that it upscales is it's filling in. So for every one pixel, it's 4K is 4 times the resolution of 1080p. So you have 3 other pixels around that one that are just unfilled. And the upscaler is going to intelligently use the screen information to fill in those pixels and just clean up the image. It does it really well. And I'm oversimplifying the process, because there's different types of upscalers. During the PS4 era with the PS4 Pro, that was checkerboard rendering, which was similar to what the Xbox One X was doing, just a little bit better. So I'm oversimplifying it, but that's what an AI upscaler does. An AI upscaler is not adding textures. It's not adding hair. It's not adding lighting information. It's not adding any of that. And while I was doing my research, we got ourselves here. I said this last episode, we are complicit. We bought into the original iterations of DLSS. These tech companies, you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And we gave them an inch. Ray reconstruction, we shouldn't be surprised that we're here now. Recreating light rays, enhancing the light rays beyond what the artist has already done is kind of just as bad as redoing the entire face. And AI as a whole is not there enough to be doing it. It can't do it. Every time we know when somebody threw their picture through an AI filter, we know immediately because it looks horrible. It's not well done. You're better off face tuning 3.0, which I, as a photographer who has been on Instagram for the last 15 years almost, I've been on Instagram since 2013. Okay. Like, I've seen every iteration of Instagram since its beginning. I remember what the streets was saying when Facetune came out. I remember being in high school and hearing girls making fun of other girls for using this version of Facetune over the last one, or overly doing the Facetune. Fast forward, I graduated high school in 2014. Fast forward, and here we are past the midpoint of the 2020s, and grown people with children are taking pictures of themselves and putting it in AI filters, and it's all in good fun. I get it, but it's immediately obvious that it's AI. DLSS 5 is no different. For as much money as they have spent on research and development, and for as much money as these graphics cards cost, it keeps being shown to us that AI cannot do what a photographer does. It cannot do what a filmmaker does, and it cannot do what a game designer does, because we have intuition, we have soul. And I hate to get super deep on this, but that is the difference. Yes, the AI models, they have countless gigabytes and terabytes of data to draw from, to recreate from. They don't have their own experiences. Our experiences inform our handwriting. They inform how we write our name, let alone how you make your Mona Lisa. So I'm sorry, I'm not with it. And I'll be keeping my eye on what Sony does, because I'm complicit into whatever they do with the PS6. I'm complicit. I bought the PS5 Pro. And Mark Cerny just said the other day, yeah, frame generation is coming. I don't really like frame generation like that. I probably will never use it, but frame generation for the PS5 Pro is on the way. I like the innovation. I do. There's a thin line. My line is at recreating, because there's a difference in creation and fill in. There's a difference. My line is just filling in the gaps is fine. That's a little icky for me, but that's my personal line. Anything beyond filling in the gaps, I'm not the biggest fan of. And it appears that, and this is the thing, I'm not a fan of it in principle, but you can make me a fan of it by getting the developer of Onimusha Way of the Sword to come out and show you how they've been working with NVIDIA on DLSS 5, and this is how it's going to enhance our experience, and it's going to keep it separate from what you'll experience in Resident Evil and what you'll experience in Pragmata. Team up with Capcom. You went behind everybody's backs. You went behind Ubisoft's backs. Nobody even likes Ubisoft. You got people, I love Ubisoft, but you got people who don't like Ubisoft, like having sympathy for them, like, damn, y'all ain't even know. Y'all ain't even know they was doing that. That's crazy. That's not right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's here. It is here. My most anticipated game of 2026 is finally here. Yes, I am talking about Crimson Desert. Now, before you guys get too hyped, this is not my review episode. This is my talking episode, okay? That's what I'm finna be doing. Cause y'all done lost your marbles over this game on the time. A lot of y'all is telling on yourselves. Okay? Now, I'm gonna play a meme. I don't know if I can pull this off well. There's a Crimson Desert video on my TikTok. Oh my gosh, it's the top. See, there's no way that y'all haven't. There's no way y'all haven't seen what I'm about to play. That y'all have. If you're a gamer, you have seen this meme. If not, I may cut this section out. But this, I want you to hear this meme and let this be the baseline of my entire Crimson Desert launch segment. Okay, because I got 20 minutes to talk about this.
Love that realism. White niggas love that realism. That nigga got that shit in all caps. Look at the damn thumbnail, boy. He let you know that shit bare bones, boy. That shit gridiron, boy. That nigga one man all ass shit. The hell, boy. This nigga think these white niggas be playing the game like they living in it, but they think they a part of that shit. They think they a part of resurrection. Hey, talking about.
I don't know if you guys have heard those memes. I'm assuming if you're gamers over the age of 18 or 21, that your algorithm has showed you that meme at least once. That guy has been on a roll for the last 7 days. This is what I love so much about the way that the universe works. Because some random kid will be in his dorm room cooking up the latest joke of the month. And there will be real things happening in the world that he has created that meme that connect directly to what he is trying to say in this meme. Now, I know what he's saying. He got another one. He's got another one. That was the realism one. This one is about movement.
Boy, white niggas love movement, boy. White nigga love them movement mechanics. Dude, this game has shit fucking movement mechanics, bro. I'm getting off. Sad that they gonna love that shit. They can't play without that movement, boy. That game can have everything in it, bro, to go goddamn game of the year, bro. If you can't slide cancel on that shit, hey, them niggas is not playing your shit. Hey.
He's not wrong. If you can't slide cancel, there are people who are not going to play your game. What he is speaking to, because he's saying white gamers. I'm not going to say white gamers. I got white listeners. I'm not saying just white gamers because my white listeners is the homies. But you, white listener, know the white gamer that he's talking about. But it's not just white gamers. It's a Western thing. Because if you go to this particular part of YouTube that he's talking about in the TikToks, and I might like download the TikTok so I can show it to you in the video. But in the TikTok, he is showing you YouTube thumbnails. And anybody who watches gaming videos on YouTube knows exactly what he's talking about. When he was doing the realism meme, white guys love realism. So they love, like, this is how you take Ghost Recon and get ultra realism mode. I like, but that's why I play Ghost Recon. So I've seen those videos, okay? But there's a culture in the West of gamers And we talked about it since the beginning of this podcast. And again, I'm going to use the word Western from here on out because this is what's popping up with Crimson Desert, which is a Korean-made game. There is a way in the West that we do things. Just in general. We get our food fast, or we get it delivered. We microwave, you know? We enjoy content. I watched a gajillion people kill Timothée Chalamet for telling the truth about arts. People who didn't watch the interview, but what he was saying was that opera and theater are inaccessible to the mainstream. And they're dying because of it. And movies is the last art form where you can get high art. And if you got $5 or $6, you can access it, right? We want instant access. And in this, we have allowed companies like Netflix, TikTok, Hulu, Disney. We have allowed these companies to rewire our brains in real time. Netflix has virtually admitted to producing content that you can watch while you scroll through your phones, because we're going to reiterate plot points throughout the episode and the next episode. Marvel learned the hard way about overspending on content. And y'all know I hate that word, so I'm using it for a reason. We like content so that we can make content about it. In the West, we are not very good at watching a thing, listening to a thing, playing a thing, without trying to find a way to not only give our opinion from the highest mountaintop, but also to monetize said opinion. So much so to where in the West, we will pretend to have an opinion that we don't believe in, for that monetization or for that attention, for those likes. Because I've seen the checks of influencers on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook who get tens of thousands of likes on their reels. So I know there's not a lot of money in faking it. That's what we do in the West. I don't know the East well enough to know whether or not there's phony stuff going on over there in Chinese and Korean and Japanese social media. I don't know. But I know over here, we are a nation of hypocrites, pretenders, bootlickers. We love CEOs. We love capitalism. We love people who exploit. We love scammers. We love everything that's wrong. And more than all of that, we love to see ourselves. In the West, in gaming, it is majority white males. And that's cool. That's the nature of the population. And it's reflected in all of our major industries. Gaming, movies, like it is what it is. We have made wonderful things in the West. We have made wonderful pieces of art. But a lot of our greatest pieces, we borrowed from the East. Star Wars, which borrows from Dune, borrows from the Middle East. But Star Wars specifically borrows from Akira Kurosawa, a Japanese filmmaker. Now, they pay their homage. Christopher Nolan, Inception, one of my favorite movies as a teenager. Bar for bar borrowed from Paprika, an anime film from the early 2000s. Kill Bill, Lady Snowblood. The list goes on and on. The greatest things that we have ever made, Grand Theft Auto 5, let's bring it back to our sphere, is Heat, the movie, remade 3 or 4 different times in the game. That's what Grand Theft Auto 5 is. GTA 5 is Heat and other LA crime flicks. That's all it is. We'll see what GTA 6 is, And so I think that's part of why Red Dead gets more respect than Grand Theft Auto does in terms of like story. The point I'm trying to make is through all of that borrowing and copying and pasting, if you look at the games that we make in the West, your Assassin's Creeds, your Far Cries, even Ghost of Tsushima, Uncharted, Call of Duty. I don't really want to count The Witcher because that's Eastern European, and I think that's an important distinction. I think The Witcher, Cyberpunk, and Stalker 2 are examples of the Western ideologies that I like. But by and large, we like to have our hands held. We like to be told where to go and what to do, and in clear detail. Okay? We not only need to have a mini map with the icon, but we need the icon on the screen leading us directly to what button to push or what thing in the world to interact with. Even though you have designed a way to show us how to do things, here's a way that we normally are shown how to do things in the West. And so if you're not doing it this way, then your game design is just bad. And I'm about to bring my point full circle. That's us in the West. If you don't believe me, just watch other gaming channels on YouTube. Watch every other gaming channel on YouTube that is not mass market like IGN or GameSpot. What's another mass market one? Watch creators that have the rep of Skill Up and below, including Skill Up. But just watch these channels. I'm talking about everybody except for Game Ranks, because I like those before you buy videos. Those are still great videos. The Working Class Gamer Podcast has Game Ranks DNA. It's just guys that like talking about games and telling you whether or not you should buy it at full price, wait for it, yada, yada, yada. ACG, another channel I really love where he does buy, wait for sale, or never touch. He's never sponsored, but watch everybody else. Endymion, Smash JT. These people that have built platforms off of, they added a girl to this game, and there's black people in this game, and there's a gay person in that game, and they put the LGBT flag in the Spider-Man game, and yada. Those channels are made up of people that don't play games. Okay? And so you have people my age and younger, and I'm getting on the I'm joining the adult table, right? Like I'm not a gaming journalist, but you know what I mean. I'm sitting at the adult table of gamers now. Like the gamers I talk to are also paying taxes and raising kids and yada. I'm not, but I know kids, but you know what I'm saying. We're 28, 29, 30, 31, 32 years old. But there are young creators who have watched these middle-aged rage baiters, these middle-aged masturbators. Excuse me if you're young for saying that, but y'all know what I'm saying. But you got younger creators who have watched them and are like, oh, that's the model. That's what we're going to do. You can just say things. Meanwhile, all of this is happening while legitimate gaming journalism is dying. We watched Game Informer magazine die. I mourned them on this channel, and they just came back. Magazines are dying. Websites are being bought up. IGN is owned by the same company that owns Fox News. Okay? And so it's good for the little guy, the independent creators, kind of funny games, even though they have an agenda, but they are made up of independent creators. Last Stand Media from Colin, whatever Brody's name is. I listen to his podcast every now and again, Sacred Symbols. ACG, like I previously mentioned, even Skill Up. It is allowed for these independent lanes to pop up as print media has died, and because of TikTok and social media, regular internet media is dying. But it's unregulated. So you really have to just use your discernment to figure out who you value and who you want to listen to. Sorry. The reason I started with the white guys love meme is because this is a white male dominated industry in design, in journalism, and in the market. Okay? That's who dominates all of the above. Even though the minorities have a larger stake, if not just as large, in at least the market. Maybe not in journalism, maybe not in design, but in the market for sure, the minorities are the majority. The people making games and investing in games know that. The people who have been the majority for the last 35 years of video games are refusing to accept that. And what the implications mean for the games that are designed and sold in the current day. And that brings us to March 19th, 2026, or the release of Crimson Desert. If you watch and listen to this podcast, I just want to implore you, when you see a game that comes out, I just want you to trust your gut. There is no game with better art direction to me than Elden Ring. And for the first 2 years of that game being out, I knew it wasn't for me. I don't have the grit and I don't have the patience for what Elden Ring asks of me. I know the pedigree of From Software. This game will never leave my collection. But I know that Elden Ring is not for me. Even though everything about that game, the world, the lore, the way they do lore, the character designs, music, everything, voice acting, everything, that is all for me. But the game design and the game mechanics, that Souls-like, that I don't touch Souls-likes. They are not for me. You know who they're for? Well, they're for everybody who likes them. I'm mad people play those games, but we know who runs the lore channels. Like, we know who's doing the lore on Elden Ring and on Bloodborne and on Dark Souls 3 and all that kind of stuff. And I've watched those videos and they're good. But I know that wasn't for me. I tried it 2 years later to get ready for Shadow of the Erdtree. It's not for me. Can't do it. But, you know, salute to everybody else who can. I see the greatness in this game. I understand it. So I'm not arguing with nobody. I'm not arguing with the industry when they gave it Game of the Year for 2022 over Breath of the Wild. I'm not arguing. Or was it Breath of the Wild? Or Tears of the Kingdom, excuse me. I'm not arguing. That game deserves it. That is Elden Ring is the defining game of the generation. If Red Dead 2 is the defining game of the 2010s, Elden Ring thus far is the defining game of the 2020s. Does not appear to be changing. And if Cyberpunk 2077 didn't have the launch that it did so that y'all could glaze over how bad the launch was, it probably would have that title. But I have no problem saying it's Elden Ring. But it's not for me. When I see the Metacritic score, I'm like, that makes sense. Not for me, though. That's 2022, though. In the years since, and this happened this generation, PS5, Xbox Series X, all of that I talked about, of just creators who pop up out of nowhere and are just like committed to saying anything that they think will get clicks, that era was ushered in behind greatness like that. And so now chuds and losers are being amplified more than ever. The algorithm that Elon Musk bankrolls, it is amplifying those people. Common sense is not being amplified. Intellectualism is not being amplified. The pretender, the hypocrite, the one who is posturing as instead of developing himself into or developing herself into, those who are posturing are being amplified. I'm talking about you, Luke Stevens. Those who are pretending to be something they're not or who think they can do it better than everybody else are being amplified. Those who are smug and arrogant are being amplified. Not those who are humble, not those who are trying to find their rhythm, not those who are trying to understand, who are trying to empathize. Those are not the voices being amplified in any art. Movies, TV, music, games, it's not happening anymore because it's the nature of the internet. So here we are. Crimson Desert is out. Now, before I get to Metacritic, I just want to give y'all some facts. Crimson Desert has sold 2 million copies. Amazing launch. Apparently not good enough for the shareholders, but an amazing launch nonetheless. Like I said, no review impressions from me. That's going to be next episode. This is just Steam data I'm going to give you right now. Its all-time peak player count just hit 248,530 players as of 3.5 hours ago on Sunday, whatever today is, March 22nd. An estimated 1.11 million of those sales have been on PC, 2 million total. And I'm sure, similar to Resident Evil, you probably got 500,000 on PS5 and 300,000 on Xbox. Right now, it has a user rating. It's above. It's not at mixed anymore. It's got a 68.02% Steam rating out of 50,000 reviews. Okay, so that's data. Crimson Desert is selling. People are liking it. Generally favorable. When I go to the Metacritic, which it's currently sitting at a 78, and that's for the PC copy. Man, I'm losing all of my Crimson Desert Metacritic. I'm losing all my pages. 78 on Metacritic, that's the PC copy. When that 78 came out, the stock price decreased 30%. Which is how you end up in situations like we've ended up in with Battlefield 6. I think, could you imagine if it came out that like Disney or Warner Brothers or whoever needed a certain Rotten Tomatoes score to not fire people? Like in other businesses, it's just money. Like it's just like with movies, like Avatar 3 could have been trash, like in terms of just could have been critically trash. If it makes $2 billion, though, we're probably going to get another Avatar. It might be a minute. We might take a break, give the audience a break, give James Cameron some time to figure it out. But there's still going to be another one. Because the reviews came out opening weekend, and it still managed to get to $2 billion, which Avatar 3 got to $1.6 billion with good reviews. But it still managed to hit a pretty high mark. So we think we can probably do it again. Let's just take a little more time to get it right. You know what I mean? But Transformers, after the first one, the reviews of the movies just go downhill. The third one's, people I like all the Transformers movies, but they're not the best reviewed movies on the planet. You know what they do really well, though? They get to $1 billion really fast. And if you're making them for $200 million and you're making 5 times that amount, you're going to keep going until you can't do it no more. And then you're going to take a break. Gaming seems to be the only place where it matters what the word of mouth is and not how much money you have literally generated in X amount of time. I'll never really understand that. And I know that the nature of games has to do with people's perception because the barrier to entry is a little bit higher than a movie ticket or than buying a CD, right? Like these are $50, $60, $70, $80, $90 games, depending on what edition you're buying, $100, $129 games. But still, that's kind of weird. I feel like when the 2 million units sold stat comes out, the stock should shoot up a little bit. And maybe it did. Nobody reported on it, though. When a game is about to release and you know it's a 100, 200, 300 hour experience, I want you guys, excuse me, I've been drinking Coca-Cola. I want you guys to adopt the same stance that I have. If you decide you want it, if you see everything that you like, everything about it, and you like everything you see about it, you feel like it's worth taking a chance, then take the chance. Steam, PlayStation, they give you 2 hours to play the game and ask for a refund if you bought it digitally. Any of the retailers, you open the disc. Well, GameStop, once you open a new disc, you can't return it. You can trade it in and still get like $30 to $40 back or whatever. But you should be, what I want to say is you yourself should be figuring out if you want the game or not. We should not be relying so heavily on reviews. Reviews are good in hindsight, right? Reviews are good if you never played Batman Arkham Knight. You finally got to the, like you used to play nothing but shooters. If you were like me, 13, 14, you play nothing but shooters. Then about 16, 17, some started to flip in your mind. You started to enjoy more open world stuff. Oh, well, there's an open world Batman game, and I just watched the Batman movie the other night. I wonder if that's good. It's on sale for $7. Let me Batman Arkham Knight review. That, to me, for me, that's when reviews are perfect. Reviews should not be used to tell you whether or not you should buy a game. I just don't feel like Because I don't want to take like there are people who love like MMOs. I don't want your opinion on Final Fantasy 16. I don't really want your opinion on Stalker 2. You know what I mean? Like, there are people who built their entire channel off Destiny. I don't want your opinion on Crimson Desert. When you spent the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years doing nothing but Destiny content, now you're trying to tell me about the latest open world action game from Korean developer Pearl Abyss, who before they made this made nothing but MMOs. I don't want your specific opinion. I also the thing with game journalism, the thing about gaming journalism that's become evident to me is that these people are racing through the game to get their reviews out as fast as they possibly can because they feel like they're going to get left behind. This podcast is coming out on a Monday. I don't know that it would have performed that much better if I had an episode ready to review the launch on Friday. I don't even have the talking points that I have right now that I had on Friday. I'm playing the game. There's a reason I put 15 hours into Crimson Desert, maybe 20. There's a reason I'm still waiting till the next episode to give you comprehensive review impressions. That still can't be a full review because I haven't fully finished the game. This is the Working Class Gamer podcast. The name tells you everything you need to know. Some of us don't sit in our room all day long, every single day, scrolling through Steam to find something to play, leaving comments or doing whatever, playing a game for 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day. Some of us, you might be like me. I knew I wanted to play Crimson Desert. I took 2 days off. Normally I work every other weekend. I took 2 days off this weekend, right? So that I could play, so I could fully so I could get a good amount of hours into Crimson Desert before I have to go back to like regularly scheduled programming. Because I know I need that time to understand the mechanics, the systems, and everything, right? I don't want to just be able to play this game for one day and then I got to go back to work for 3 days straight because it's going to be jarring when I come back to it. At the same time, I don't know that maybe my experience with the game is the same, but I don't know if it's the same if I'm playing this game 10, 12 hours a day, 7 to 10 days in a row. Shout out to Fighting Cowboy. He's got a review out after putting in 110 hours into the game. The first thing he tells you is that he has not finished the game. He's not close to finish with the game. He's just giving you comprehensive thoughts after putting 3-digit hours into the game. I can appreciate a review like that. And that was the only review. I watched a few reviews. That was the only review that I felt like matched not my expectations for the game, but just how I perceive video games. Because as soon as you tell me that the story is lacking, I'm just not interested. Again, back to like Western gamers, Western ideology has just this super high level of entitlement with everything. Everybody owes us, the 75,000 a year consumer, something. And I just don't understand that. I watched a dude, because this is the thing. The game came out the 19th of March. The week before they did previews, they did the embargo came up for developers to put out their preview. In one of those previews, the guy said, yeah, we got flown out a week ago from the time that this is releasing. So people have only had review codes for 2.5 weeks. Let's do the math. That's 14 to 17 days. If you gave 10 hours a day every day for that 14 to 17 days, you did 140 to 170 hours. No, I just don't believe that many of you got 150 plus hours that got these reviews out day one that are not. IGN, y'all got me looking at IGN with respect. Saying, hey, we played dozens of hours of this game. We're not ready to put out a proper review. Here are our review impressions. We'll do a little Zoom podcast thing, come and hear our thoughts, but we don't have a review. And the rest of y'all do? So again, in the nature of the echo chamber, in the nature of copy and paste and not being yourself, you've got jaded, tired reviewers that have gone from playing Marathon or from playing Resident Evil right into this. And then these are the same guys from 5, 7 years ago, 10 years ago. These are the same guys. We need new faces. These are the same white dudes. They kill, and I get it, because the last time a really massive game came out, there had to have been one in between now and Cyberpunk 2077. But I remember how that girl who reviewed Cyberpunk 2077 in its launch date and gave it a 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10, something like that, and was harassed online in the comments of the YouTube video and on her Twitter. She's probably still private to this day. Last time I looked at her Twitter, she was private, and she got harassed crazy by super fans, super hype dudes of the game. Like, we still we still got to rotate these faces out. We got to put some new blood in there. We should have known, and maybe they did, but we should have known who was going to review Crimson Desert months ago. For these massive games, we need to know. Y'all need to go ahead and figure out who is reviewing Grand Theft Auto 6. You just need to figure it out. Schedule accordingly. Have that guy go to the preview event when it's time. Have that guy take the review code home or be in the cubicle for 10, 12 hours a day playing that game. I just don't want to, video game journalists are competing with the echo chamber now for attention. Nobody's taking their time with anything. And as soon as I played this game, I stopped wanting to hear anybody official. Like, there are a couple people, like Paul Tassi put out a tips video. Fighting Cowboy put out a tutorial video, which that's how I got introduced to Fighting Cowboy, was his combat tutorials on different games. And he's a gamer. These journalists, they're not reviewing it as gamers, and some of them are admitting to it. And this is the other thing about reviewing games like this, because as I'm taking my time with this game, I'm understanding the intention of this game, or at least this is my interpretation of the intention, and I'll get into my interpretation on the next episode. But this game has a story. You just can't go about it the way you do in Assassin's Creed Shadows, the way you do in Far Cry 6, the way you did, and the other thing, and I'm going to call it out. Even though Cliff McDuff is clearly inspired by Scotland and war, like Braveheart type of aesthetic or whatever, this is a very Asian game in its design, its technique, and everything. This is a very Korean game. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a Western presenting and Western designed game. And to me, I can only say this from the outside looking in, it appears to me that game was given more consideration in its speed and story delivery and everything, because the people reviewing that game are literally seeing themselves in that game. My biggest criticism of Crimson Desert thus far is that this could have easily just had a character creator, and not making your own dude, not even in an Avowed kind of way, in a Commander Shepard kind of way. You could have a male or female voice. Do what they did with V. You spend all this money and I still have to play as Cliff McDuff as he is presented. It doesn't bother me that much, but it could have easily been that. But I think the reason that I don't understand rating this game lower because you think the story is lacking or it's not as immersive, when I never heard a soul, and I was there for its launch, I never heard a soul tell me about Elder Scrolls Skyrim's story ever in life. I never heard a soul talk about Oblivion's story. I still ain't heard a soul talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's story or the first one's story. I ain't heard nobody tell me this story is insane. The only game that I have heard about its story that is a massive RPG is Baldur's Gate 3. That's the one game I've heard people talk about the story. Every game don't have to be Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Last of Us Parts 1 and 2. And I'm so sick of the West's obsession with making games into movies and television. Because my biggest complaint of Red Dead 2, one of my favorite games of all time, is how much that game freaking meanders. Crimson Desert asking you to go and chop down some trees to get 3 timber to bring back to the guy that's going to refine and upgrade your weapons for the next 20 hours. That's not meandering. That's a game teaching you and tutorializing you with a particular system. That's not a waste of time, because you are going to have to bring that same dude back materials one way or another. And the game is showing you how to do it on your own versus finding timber throughout the world. That for a quick 10 minutes, you can spend some time chopping down trees and generating enough timber to upgrade every wood-based item you have in your inventory for the next 2 or 3 levels. If you've got the money and other resources. That's not a waste of time. There are some, they don't like GTA 5. The tow truck mission is a waste of time. And people tell me that GTA 5 is the greatest game of the PS3 and 360 generation. And I get it. It's I don't think it's better than Red Dead Redemption, the first one. Because it's got a lot of meandering. The yoga mission. But when white men see themselves in said product, they are more forgiving. I know this for fact because the dude Colin from Sacred Symbols, who by all accounts seems to be a conservative, has to tell everybody to shut the F up and play Tales of Kenzar Zhao and get past the fact that you're playing as some black dude in an Afro-futuristic story and like witness the sublime Metroidvania mechanics going on in the game, that no, this is actually a great game. This is not a culture war game. When people were doing the Sweet Baby Inc. thing for content back in the day, they don't even care about that no more. That organization still exists. Nobody makes those videos. And you got to have a conservative white guy that's like, yo, it's a lot that I've heard say with his own mouth. They're putting a lot of females in games. That's the guy that has to come out and say the rest of y'all are tripping for being overly racist to the developer of this game. That it's not a woke game, that it's a great Metroidvania. Who cares if they decided to make this game with black people in it? We got to sell you on the game mechanics to get you to be quiet, and not that it's wrong to criticize a game for having a person of color as the main character. But those are the people who dictate the overall messaging behind everything that comes out. And I've been sick of it since the start of his channel, and I'm still sick of it. You guys play every game looking for Western design philosophies, and they don't exist in the East. Elden Ring is a game that is designed for that type of player. But no developer in the West can do Elden Ring. That's the other thing. The East is doing what we do better than we ourselves do it, because the consumer who became the journalist is obsessed with a Last of Us level story. The Last of Us, just how people say The Dark Knight ruined superhero movies for a time and everything had to be realistic and grounded. James Bond, Man of Steel, whatever. Everything had to be grounded in realism because of The Dark Knight. The Last of Us specifically has ruined storytelling expectations in video games. I don't remember the story beats of Far Cry 3, but they have one of the most iconic villains ever put in a video game, and it made sense with the nature of what the game was doing. The world of Crimson Desert, if y'all played the game, is the actual the true the world is the story. Cliff is a vehicle for you to go and interact with that story through mechanics and systems as they have been designed. I say all that to say, guys, my review impressions will be out a week from this episode. It will probably come out the following Sunday, whenever this episode comes out, because I have more things that I really want to speak on. But we got to call the echo chamber for what it is. And for a lot of us, especially those who are part of the minority communities in gaming, some of these voices are not going to be the voices that you can relate to, and thus their experience is not going to be the same. You have to look at the games coming out and decide for yourself if it's something that you want to experience. And if it is, wonderful. If it's not, that's okay too. Because this is also the greatest generation of games we've ever had. There are amazing experiences coming out week after week after week. And there are tons of experiences that I know you and I haven't even touched yet from the past. So use your discernment. Because it's wicked out here. The opinions, the nature of getting a job in game development and keeping that job and how these people are keeping that job don't contribute to the beast. Don't find yourself feeding the beast that is taking art and talent every single day, absorbing it and ripping the people who possess that art and talent, ripping them apart, ripping them to shreds and throwing them out, throwing them into the wastebasket and taking the trash out for somebody else to come and collect. Because that's what's happening. You can make the best-selling shooter. You can be the game to dethrone Call of Duty and still get laid off because the numbers don't look right. I want more experiences like Crimson Desert that say, hey, this is how you're going to play this open world game. It's not going to play like Assassin's Creed. This game plays a lot like GTA, which is also why I don't understand a lot of the complaints. These game companies are not serving these crybaby ass streamers and reviewers no more. These middle-aged men that are wearing tank tops and you can see their stomach coming over there. Like I'm telling you about creators that got access to preview events for Crimson Desert and came back to give their opinions. Like I saw this one guy I was watching. They let him record the first 3 hours of said demo. They let him post it. And he spent 30 minutes of that time telling us that this was just bad game design. And I played those exact sections. He wasn't reading the captions on the screen because we're stupid in the West. We have let games and media, the people who make the biggest decisions in those industries, we have let those same people dumb us down. And so some of you can't even be trusted. But those of you with some discernment, use your discernment. Use your discernment when you spend your money on these games. If you see something in it and you think it's worth your time, it probably is. Trust your gut. Trust your instincts. Don't trust somebody that makes all the money in their pocket off of giving you their opinion. And I mean, not in an official channel. Because shout out to Gene Park in the Washington Post. I read his review, didn't agree with his experience, but I respect his pen. And he's earned my respect. Paul Tassi with Forbes, he's earned my respect. I respect those pens. Some of these guys, though, you got to understand, this L-shaped desk, they never leave it. And they paid for a presence on Twitter. They paid for a presence on YouTube. They paid for a presence on the internet. They didn't earn it. Use your discernment with the people who earned your time, because YouTube is counting how long you watch these videos. They count out, for people who watch my podcast episodes from beginning to end, thank you so much. Use discernment with who you are giving your watch time to, because some of these dudes, they are talking heads for ideologies that need to die beyond the world of gaming, but they need to die. The ideologies, I'm saying, not the people. These talking points, they got to go. We got to stop giving our watch time to these sorts of people. And they're ladies and gentlemen. It's not just dudes. But it's the Western gamer. The Western gamer is the least important gamer now. Black Myth has shown us that. Phantom Blade Zero is about to show us that. Crimson Desert, I believe, is showing us that. All we have is our Call of Duty and our Grand Theft Auto. That's all we have is our crime and debauchery. Okay? So with that said, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I can't wait to bring you my next episode. I'm really excited to give you my just my views on Crimson Desert, because I am loving my time with it. I'm about to be late to work and I can't wait to get back home so I can cut this podcast up, go to sleep, wake up, and play Crimson Desert while you guys are watching this episode. Like, while you're watching this, I am definitely in the world of Pywell. Okay? Maybe I put a clip of my gameplay in here. Maybe I didn't. I just beat the Reed Devil this morning, so I'm kind of geeked up. But anyway, with all that said, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're finding this. I appreciate you liking, subscribing, listening. If you agree or disagree with anything I said in this episode, please comment below. I appreciate you guys' comments when you do. You know what I mean? They that's a way for you to enhance your listening and viewing experience. Leave a comment below. Share this with a friend. You know what I mean? Share this with the like-minded people in your life that are looking for good gaming commentary. I'm not going to say gaming journalism, but good gaming commentary. All right. And with all that said, you guys be blessed, be easy. I will see you next time. And I will be streaming Crimson Desert this week, so turn them post notifications on. All right. Stay tuned. Finish the heart. Bye. Bye.